What's going on, real ones? BCHQ back with another discussion time, episode 97, and this one was suggested by my boy 999 Pluto Jargo. Shout out to you, bro. He was saying he should do a video on the current state of the music industry. I'm going to address 360 deals, certain artists from sort of current and past, just as a few examples of it. So, where should we start? So I think the majority of artists, let's go with 360 deals. Majority of artists, like especially in hip hop and rappers, are on 360 deals. Now I've got a page up on my pad here that I'm just looking at about it because I'm no expert on 360 deals, but just so I can sort of give you some definitions. It's a contract that allows a record label to receive a percentage of earnings from all a band's activities are referred to as 360 deals. So basically, the record labels take a certain percentage of whatever that artist is making through different aspects of sales and stuff. I've got a list of different things that it writes deals, like these are some of the percentages that they take from. Digital sales, tours, concerts, live performance revenue, merchandise sales, endorsement sales, appearances in movies and television shows, songwriting, lyric display and publishing revenue, and ringtone sales. As labels say that they'll commit to promoting the band or the artist for a longer period of time in exchange for a bigger cut from the artist they represent. So basically they aim to pay for all the artists, like living arrangements and all that sort of stuff, in return for the money they make from the artist in terms of record sales, like I just mentioned, like the touring and merchandise and all that comes into it. The thing is, as I said, the majority, I don't know the specific numbers, but the majority of artists nowadays are on these deals. But the trouble is that once they sign these contracts, they're in it for a certain amount of time. Sometimes they're in it for a lifetime, and they might get writer's block and all that, but they have certain demands and deadlines they have to meet in order for their bills and everything to get paid in return for them producing material. But also, you have to remember that a lot of these are strict, these labels, so you'll be on it and be getting all this money, but you're restricted in terms of the creative process of writing and what you are able to put out there, the message you push. Now let me just go into a little bit more on this with certain artists in the past, that they've been a certain message they've tried to push, and the majority of them are dead. And you gotta ask yourself why. Let's go with Juice WRLD. He was talking a lot about depression and his addictions and anxieties in his songs. But the team around him and the record label around him had a responsibility to take care of his health. But they don't really care about that because they want to push an image that the drugs and everything's cool because they know that sells. So ultimately, they're kind of contradicting themselves because they need the artist to make the money for them, but they will also push the drugs and that because in turn that creates more money. So they're playing with fire, really. But if they make more money, that's their ultimate goal. So whether the artist dies or not, they know they're going to make a certain amount. And let's be honest, these artists make more money once they're dead as well, which goes to the record labels, because depending on the contracts you sign, them record labels are going to snatch that away from that artist's family, because all them, you got to remember that a lot of these labels and that pay for these artists' families as well, not just the artists themselves. So that's a whole bunch of people, but that gets snatched away a lot of the times, depending on the clauses in the contracts. These record labels will just take it from the family after that artist is dead. And do you know what I mean? It's just horrible. And you got to be aware of this before you get into these deals. A lot of artists, we're sold that the 360 deals and a record label is the ultimate goal. That's the ultimate, like that's as high as you can get. But it's not. If you go independent, it might be a slower process and you might not get as much money as you would with a record label. But you could still make a good enough amount to live off. You just have to be careful with it and be sensible with it. And also when you go independent, you know your fan base is going to be a actual core fan base. It's not just going to be there for the trends and they're endorsing your drug use and that. They're not really endorsing your message and your lyrics and that. And also with Juice WRLD, he was pushing that, yes, he had these addictions, but he wanted to change. And look what happened. Now, I'm not saying that his was like someone actually killed him, like, physically, but in a way they did, because they were, like, the team and that around him, he was able to get these drugs, you know what I mean? So they have a huge responsibility to make sure that stuff don't happen. But as I said, it brings more money in for them. So, but let me just go into something I learned the other day as well. Offset from Migos used to be a backup dancer or a background dancer for Whitney Houston. Yet we gotta pretend that they're hard. We gotta pretend these rappers are hard. They're gangster, but a lot of them are faking it. Tupac was in a group, a dance group. He went to like a poetry school, like high standard school. Now I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but it is a bad thing when then you go into a thug life image that you're trying to sell, when that's not your roots, that's not who you was. Yet a lot of people glamorize Tupac as a thug. But if you actually go and do your research, he was a mama's boy. He went to an art school. He did poetry. He was almost naked on stage, dancing. I can't remember what the crew was called. And he's on stage dancing in a thong. And you guys glamorize this guy as a gangster. Go and do your research. It's all smoke and mirrors, man. It's not what you're told. The image they sell you is not, most of the time, 9 times out of 10, it's not what it is. Drake. He was an actor before he was a musician. Probably one of the biggest artists in the world right now. But he has ghostwriters. How are you gonna give someone praise when they don't write their own lyrics? I don't understand that. Yes, it'll go on in other genres as well, but I think Drake, I would like to see the percentage of lyrics he actually writes. Because at the level he's at and the praise he gets, people put him in categories with Eminem and stuff, and I'm like, he doesn't even write his own lyrics. What are you on about? So, you got to research on these artists, man. Prince, for those of you that remember Prince, he used to try and tell people about the music industry. He said record contracts are slavery. The record labels are basically, they're your masters. They own your masters as well. Wordplay, bars. When you have masters of songs and copyrights of songs, then record labels own that. So that goes into the 360 deals as well. They own your music. You have no rights to that music. So whilst you're living it up and you're making all this money thinking it's never going to end, it is at some point. You don't own your music. I'd rather go independent and own my music and not make any money than never have ownership of my own music, my own creative process. They're stealing, and they're making and taking huge chunks of percentage of money that is rightfully yours. So you have to be careful, man. You have to be careful. For those of you that don't know, Daylight is a battle rapper but also a musician. I just wanted to touch on this slightly as well. He does like vlogs and that, just talking about life and music and all different sorts of things. But he's very conscious. And he spoke about XXX, Juice WRLD, Capital Steez. Like, a lot of these artists are no longer here. Mac Miller, rest in peace to all of these. The message they were trying to push was conscious, was trying to help people and wake people up from the evil that is the music industry. Trying to tell you about stuff, and they're no longer here. That can't all be coincidence that they're all no longer here, because they all had similar messages. If it's not pushing drugs, alcohol, cars, bitches, negative, dark stuff, the majority of them ain't here. Nipsey Hussle. Come on. If you really peep it, sinister, man. It's sinister. So, I think that in terms of like a summary of this, in general, I think the music industry is not in a good place, because I think there's a shift at the moment going on, and I think it's in a transitional period, and I think it's going to get better, hopefully. But at the moment, I think the morals of the music industry are just horrible. They're wrong, because it takes advantage of people. As another thing, you look at all these rappers that are dressing up as women now as well. That goes on in actors as well. They have to dress up as women to get to a higher level. Dave Chappelle spoke about it, the comedian. A lot of these artists and the comedians, especially in films, they've had to dress up in women's dresses and that to get to the next level of fame. that's like a contract within itself. So you have to be aware of these things. But you get like these like little Uzis and Young Thug and people like that dressing up with like women's handbags and that, and they got like lipstick on, makeup on, and like there's even videos I've seen of rappers talking about like they're gonna fuck someone or they fucked another rapper, or do you know what I mean? Like crazy stuff. But a lot of it is run by these people that want that, so they have to do it to get to that next level of fame because they've got them by the balls essentially when they are in these contracts. So be careful what you're doing, man. I hope this is good enough for you, Pluto. If you want another video, I could do a part 2. Just let me know anything I haven't touched upon in this one. But yeah, leave me some more in the comments, guys. Episode 97. Leave me some suggestions in the comments, and I'll see you on the next one. Shout out to everyone supporting. They don't want to fuck with the real ones.